All right, let's talk about hypertrophy, the science of how your muscles actually grow. Now, there's a lot of confusion out there. Some people think it's all about lifting heavy. Others think it's about eating big, and a few still believe in muscle confusion. Let's clear the confusion with science. All right, let's really dive into this first key point, that hypertrophy is a biological response to effective training stimulus, not just random effort. Because here's the thing, most people train hard, but very few train effectively. And there's a big difference between the two. When we talk about hypertrophy, muscle growth, we're talking about a very specific process that happens inside your body. Your muscles are made up of fibers, and those fibers respond to stress. Not emotional stress, not the my boss yelled at me stress. We're talking about mechanical stress, the kind that comes from lifting weights that are heavy enough to challenge your body's limits. See, your muscles don't grow because they want to. They grow because they have to. Your body's main goal is survival and efficiency. It doesn't want to waste energy maintaining extra muscle tissue unless it's necessary. So if you go into the gym, lift some light weights, check your phone between sets, and never really challenge yourself, your body just shrugs and says, we're fine, we don't need to adapt. But when you apply a proper training stimulus, one that's progressively challenging, your muscle fibers experience microtears. Don't worry, that's a good thing. These microtears signal your body that the muscle was not strong enough to handle that workload. In response, your body repairs the muscle tissue and reinforces it, making it slightly bigger and stronger, preparing it for the next time you face that same challenge. This is the essence of hypertrophy. It's not about random workouts. It's not about chasing the pump. And it's definitely not about doing 100 fancy Instagram exercises. It's about applying specific, measurable, and progressive tension to your muscles over time. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They confuse effort with stimulus. You can go into the gym, train until you're absolutely exhausted, dripping with sweat, and still make almost zero progress. Why? Because effort doesn't automatically equal growth. What matters is whether your effort is directed properly. For example, let's say you're training chest. If you're flaring your elbows, bouncing the bar off your chest, and letting momentum do half the work, you might feel like you're working hard, but your chest isn't actually doing most of the job. You're not giving it a targeted, effective stimulus. That's why proper technique, control, and full range of motion matter so much. They ensure that the right muscles are doing the right amount of work. And then there's the concept of progressive overload, probably the most misunderstood principle in training. Progressive overload doesn't mean you add 5 pounds to the bar every week, no matter what. It means you gradually increase the challenge placed on your muscles, whether that's by adding weight, adding reps, improving your technique, slowing your tempo, or even reducing rest times strategically. The point is to keep your muscles slightly out of their comfort zone over and over again. If you think about it, hypertrophy is your body's way of saying, fine, you win. I'll build more muscle so this doesn't happen again. But you only win when your training forces that adaptation. Here's another common mistake, doing too much, too soon. More isn't always better. There's a sweet spot for effective stimulus. Too little and you don't grow. Too much and you can't recover. Training is like cooking rice. If you undercook it, it's hard and useless. If you overcook it, it turns to mush. The goal is to find that perfect balance, enough stress to stimulate growth, but not so much that your body can't keep up. Now let's talk about volume and intensity, because these two determine the quality of your training stimulus. Volume is how much total work you do, sets and reps, and intensity is how hard you're pushing within those sets. You can't maximize both at the same time. If your intensity is super high, your volume must drop. If your volume is high, your intensity needs to be managed so you don't burn out. The balance between these two is what determines whether your training is productive or just exhausting. An effective training stimulus also depends on consistency. You can't go hard for a week and expect your muscles to grow like magic. Hypertrophy is a slow, cumulative process. Your body adapts gradually, week after week, month after month. So the question isn't, did I train hard today? The real question is, am I consistently providing the right kind of challenge over time? Let's not forget about individual differences. Some people respond better to higher volume, others to higher intensity. Some recover faster, others slower. Your genetics, training history, nutrition, and sleep all affect how your body responds to a training stimulus. That's why the best training program is the one that you can progress on, recover from, and sustain long-term. And finally, there's mind-muscle connection. It's not a myth, it's focus. When you actually feel the muscle working, control the movement, and understand why you're doing what you're doing, the quality of your stimulus skyrockets. Every rep should be intentional. Every set should have a purpose. If you're just moving weight for the sake of moving it, you're not training for hypertrophy. You're just exercising. So to put it all together, hypertrophy isn't the result of random effort. It's your body's precise biological response to a calculated and effective training stimulus. When you train with intention, when you apply progressive overload, maintain good technique, manage your recovery, and stay consistent, muscle growth becomes predictable. You don't need magic or secrets or hacks. You just need to understand the science and apply it with discipline. Your body will do the rest, because hypertrophy isn't about luck. It's about biology. And biology always rewards the right stimulus. All right, let's dig into this second key point. The idea that the balance of mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress drives hypertrophy. Because here's the thing, everyone wants to grow muscle, but most people only focus on one of these factors and completely ignore the other. Sit right. And when you do that, you're basically trying to cook a meal with one ingredient. You might get something edible, but it's not going to be great. Real long-term muscle growth comes from understanding how all three of these mechanisms work together and using them in the right balance. Let's start with mechanical tension, the king of hypertrophy. This is the foundation, the number one driver of muscle growth. Mechanical tension is what happens when your muscle fibers are under load, especially when they're stretched and contracting under resistance. Think of doing a slow, controlled eccentric on a squat or bench press. Your muscle is being stretched while still holding weight. That's mechanical tension in action. When you lift a weight, your muscle fibers sense the strain, and that strain tells your body, hey, we're not strong enough for this. Time to build more muscle so we can handle it next time. But the key here is quality tension, not just lifting heavy for the sake of it. You can throw around big weights with bad form, momentum, and half range of motion, and still not produce optimal tension on the target muscle. Real mechanical tension means controlling the movement, keeping the target muscle active the entire time, and challenging it through its full range. That's why exercises that allow a deep stretch under load, like Romanian deadlifts, incline dumbbell presses, or deep leg presses, tend to be incredible for hypertrophy. They maximize mechanical tension through that stretch, forcing your muscles to adapt. But tension isn't just about going heavy, it's about precision. The right muscle, under the right load for the right amount of time. Next up is muscle damage. This one's often misunderstood. People hear muscle damage and think soreness equals growth. Nope, soreness just means you caused stress your body isn't used to. It doesn't guarantee adaptation. Muscle damage is a byproduct of hard, effective training, not the goal itself. When you lift weights with good technique and full range, small amounts of microscopic damage happen in your muscle fibers. Your body then repairs and reinforces them during recovery. That's where growth occurs. But if you push so hard that you're sore for a week, can't move properly, or need 5 days to recover from one leg day, that's too much damage. You've gone past productive training and into overtraining territory. Remember, hypertrophy is about signaling your body to grow, not punishing it. You want just enough muscle damage to tell your body, we need to rebuild stronger. Think of it like pruning a plant. A little cut helps it grow better. But if you chop it down, it won't recover. Proper muscle damage comes from controlled eccentrics, tension in the stretched position, and enough training volume to challenge the muscle, not annihilate it. And finally, we have metabolic stress. The burn, the pump, that tight, swollen feeling in your muscles during high rep sets. A lot of people dismiss it as just a feeling, but there's real science behind it. When you train at moderate to high reps, your muscles accumulate metabolites, things like lactate, hydrogen ions, and cellular swelling. These create internal pressure and send biochemical signals that tell your body, we need to adapt to handle this buildup. Metabolic stress increases muscle fiber recruitment, enhances nutrient delivery, and can even trigger growth factors inside the muscle. It's why drop sets, supersets, and high-rep isolation work are useful tools in hypertrophy training, not because they replace heavy lifting, but because they complement it. They add another layer of stimulus. Now here's the part most people miss. These three mechanisms don't work in isolation. They overlap, and their balance depends on your training style, your recovery, and your goals. You can't just crank up all three at once and expect faster results. If you go too heavy to chase mechanical tension, you reduce metabolic stress and increase recovery demands. If you go too high volume to chase the pump, you lower intensity and risk excessive fatigue. The art of hypertrophy training is in managing these levers intelligently. For example, compound lifts like squats, presses, and rows emphasize mechanical tension and some muscle damage. Isolation lifts like curls, lateral raises, or leg extensions emphasize metabolic stress. A good hypertrophy program blends both, using big, heavy movements for tension and smaller, high-rep work for metabolic stress. Together, they create a complete stimulus that hits the muscle from every angle. Let's take a practical example. Suppose you're training chest. You start with a heavy incline press for sets of 6-10. That's your mechanical tension work. You follow that with dumbbell flies, focusing on a deep stretch and controlled eccentric. That's moderate tension with a bit of muscle damage. Then you finish with cable crossovers, 15 to 20 reps with short rest. That's pure metabolic stress. See the balance? You're not just lifting, you're engineering growth. And remember, the right balance isn't the same for everyone. Beginners often respond best to more moderate weights and higher reps because they're still learning to create tension. Advanced lifters might need heavier loads and smarter programming to keep progressing. Your training history, recovery capacity, and nutrition all affect how much of each stimulus you can handle. Now, the final piece, recovery, again ties everything together. Because all these mechanisms create fatigue, you can't grow if you're constantly in a recovery deficit. If you're training too frequently, too hard, or without enough food and sleep, you'll accumulate fatigue faster than adaptation. That's why smart lifters cycle their intensity, manage volume, and take deloads. They're not being lazy. They're respecting the biology of muscle growth. So when you think about hypertrophy, don't obsess over any single factor. Heavy weights matter, yes. The pump matters, yes. Slight soreness and controlled muscle damage matter too. But none of them matter alone. The real secret is combining them in the right proportion, at the right time, in a way that your body can actually recover from. In the end, hypertrophy isn't complicated, it's nuanced. You need tension to signal growth, a touch of damage to reinforce adaptation, and metabolic stress to finish the job. When these three work together, your training becomes more than just exercise. It becomes a science experiment where the result is predictable, measurable, and visible in the mirror. And that's when you're truly training for growth, not just lifting for fun. Let's talk about one of the most underrated, overlooked, and often completely ignored parts of muscle growth: recovery. Everyone wants to talk about training. Everyone wants to talk about the perfect split, the ideal rep range, the latest supplement that claims to double your gains. But almost nobody talks seriously about recovery, the actual phase where muscle growth happens. You can train perfectly, eat pretty well, and still spin your wheels if you don't recover properly. Because here's the simple truth: muscles don't grow in the gym. They grow when you rest. When you train, you're not building muscle, you're breaking it down. Every rep you do, every heavy set, every training session, it's stress, or creating micro tears in the muscle fibers, using up fuel and activating your body's repair system. But that repair process doesn't happen while you're still training. It happens after. So if you keep breaking down muscle tissue without giving your body the time and resources to rebuild it stronger, you're not stimulating growth. You're just digging a deeper hole of fatigue. Recovery is where your body takes all the signals from training, the mechanical tension, the muscle damage, the metabolic stress, and says, okay, we've got to rebuild stronger to handle this next time. That rebuilding requires energy, nutrients, and most importantly, time. The gym gives your body a reason to grow. Recovery gives it the ability to grow. Without that second part, nothing happens. Let's start with the most fundamental piece of recovery: sleep. If you're not sleeping well, you're sabotaging your muscle growth before it even begins. During deep sleep, Your body releases growth hormone, testosterone, and other anabolic compounds that repair and build muscle tissue. This isn't motivational fluff, it's biochemistry. If you're staying up late scrolling on your phone, getting 4 or 5 hours of broken sleep, and then wondering why your progress is slow, it's not your genetics, it's your sleep habits. 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep isn't optional. It's the most powerful legal performance enhancer you have. Next, let's talk nutrition, because recovery can't happen without proper fuel. After training, your muscles are hungry for nutrients, especially protein and carbohydrates. Protein provides the amino acids that rebuild muscle fibers, and carbs help replenish glycogen, the stored energy your body uses during intense training. If you skip meals, undereat, or follow some extreme diet that leaves you drained, you're cutting your recovery short. You can't expect your body to build new tissue out of thin air. You've got to give it the raw materials. Protein timing isn't as magical as some people make it sound, but getting enough total protein throughout the day, evenly spread across meals, is critical. Think roughly 1 gram per pound of body weight divided into 3 to 5 protein-rich meals. Add some carbs around your workouts to improve energy and recovery, and keep your fats moderate so you can maintain hormone balance. It's not complicated, it's just consistency and discipline. Now let's get into training recovery. The part people mess up the most. There's this mindset that more is always better. More sets, more days, more intensity, no rest. The problem is, the human body doesn't work that way. You can't keep increasing stress forever and expect infinite adaptation. There's a point where fatigue starts to outweigh growth. If you train too frequently or you never take rest days, your performance starts dropping. You're tired, your pumps disappear, you feel weaker, and motivation plummets. That's not a lack of willpower, that's your body saying stop. We need to recover. Muscle growth happens when the stress-recovery balance is right. You train hard enough to create a growth signal, then you give your body time to respond. This means structuring your training intelligently, using deload weeks when needed, adjusting volume and intensity, and actually respecting rest days. Rest isn't laziness, it's part of the plan. The best athletes in the world understand that. They train hard when it's time to train, and they recover just as hard when it's time to recover. There's also mental recovery, something lifters rarely talk about. Training isn't just physical, it's psychological. Motivation, focus, discipline. These are mental resources. If you're constantly overreaching, never taking breaks, and always chasing PRs, burnout is inevitable. Taking a day off, or even a light week, doesn't make you weak. It keeps you in the game longer. Think long-term. You're not training for the next session. You're training for the next decade. Another crucial factor is stress management. Chronic life stress, work, relationships, lack of sleep, all of it adds to your recovery load. Your body doesn't separate gym stress from life stress. It all goes into the same bucket. So if that bucket is overflowing, recovery slows down. Managing your overall stress through good sleep, balanced routines, hydration, and maybe even mindfulness can dramatically improve how well you recover, and by extension, how well you grow. Hydration might sound basic, but it's huge. Your muscles are mostly water. Being even slightly dehydrated can reduce performance, slow recovery, and impair nutrient delivery. Drink enough water throughout the day. It's not flashy, but it's effective. Let's also clear up a common misconception. Recovery isn't just lying on the couch doing nothing. Active recovery, like light cardio, stretching, mobility work, or even a casual walk, helps improve blood flow and nutrient delivery to the muscles. It's like gently flushing the system, helping your body repair faster without adding more fatigue. The last piece of this puzzle is patience. Muscle growth takes time. If you're training properly, eating right, and recovering well, the gains will come, just not overnight. The people who look incredible after years of training aren't the ones who went the hardest for 3 months. They're the ones who trained hard, recovered properly, and stayed consistent year after year. They respected the process. So, if you really want to grow, stop thinking that doing more sets or adding extra workouts will get you there faster. Focus on the foundation. Train with intent. Eat like your muscles depend on it, because they do. Sleep like it's part of your job. Manage your stress and give your body the time it needs to do what it's designed to do. adapt, and grow. In the end, recovery isn't the soft part of training. It's the smart part. It's what separates people who look the same year after year from those who keep improving. If you master recovery, if you learn how to balance training stress, fuel your body, and rest intelligently, hypertrophy becomes almost inevitable because your body doesn't need motivation to grow. It just needs the right environment. And recovery is the environment where all your hard work in the gym finally pays off. Let's talk about something that separates people who think they're training hard from the ones who actually make progress. Consistency and progression. You can know all the science in the world, have the perfect training split, use the best supplements, and still go nowhere if you're not consistent and progressively challenging your body. Hypertrophy isn't about what you can do once, it's about what you can do repeatedly, week after week, month after month. Your body doesn't grow from a single great workout. It grows from hundreds of them stacked over time. Here's the thing. Your body is an incredible adaptation machine. It adapts to whatever you repeatedly do. Lift heavy often enough, and it'll get stronger. Eat too little long enough, and it'll get smaller. Sleep poorly for weeks, and it'll adapt to fatigue by reducing output. The body's not emotional. It just responds to stimulus and time. That's why consistency matters so much. It's not about perfection on one day. It's about doing the right things most days. The problem with most lifters isn't effort. It's patience. They'll train like maniacs for 2 weeks, then take 3 weeks off. Or they'll jump from program to program every month because they're chasing novelty. But muscle growth isn't an overnight transformation. It's slow, predictable biology. Think of it like compound interest. The small, smart deposits you make every session eventually build something huge, but miss too many deposits, and the growth slows to a crawl. Progression is the other half of this equation. If you're not giving your body a reason to grow, it won't. The law of progressive overload is simple. To continue growing, you must gradually do more over time. That doesn't always mean adding more weight. It can mean doing more reps with the same weight, improving your range of motion, slowing down the eccentric, or even resting a little less while maintaining performance. It's about asking a little more from your body each session, but in a controlled, sustainable way. A lot of people hear progressive overload and immediately think, I'll just add 5 pounds every week. That works for beginners, but eventually that line goes flat. You can't keep adding forever. Biology has limits. What you can do, though, is improve the quality of your work, make each rep better, get stronger at the same weights by improving control, increase your total training volume over time. If you benched 85 for 10 reps 6 months ago, and now you can do it for 12 with perfect form, that's progression. It might not look impressive on paper, but your muscles feel it, and that's what drives hypertrophy. Consistency and progression work together like gears. One turns the other. Consistency without progression just maintains your current level. You'll look the same year after year. Progression without consistency is chaos. You'll burn out before you get anywhere. But put them together, and your training becomes unstoppable. You're sending a steady, clear message to your body. Adapt, build, grow. Now let's talk about why most people fail to stay consistent. It's not lack of time. It's lack of structure and expectation. People go to the gym without a clear plan. They wing it, do whatever they feel like that day, and call it training. But hypertrophy isn't about feelings. It's about measurable progression. You need a plan. You need to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it fits into the bigger picture. When you have that clarity, consistency becomes automatic. Another trap is training intensity. Some people go too hard, too fast, burn out, and then disappear for a month. Others go too easy, never challenge themselves, and wonder why nothing changes. The key is to find the sustainable middle ground, hard enough to stimulate growth, but not so hard that you can't recover and repeat it consistently. If you can't train productively multiple times a week, you're not doing hypertrophy training, you're doing survival training. Let's be honest, discipline isn't exciting, it's not flashy. No one wants to hear that the real secret to growth is showing up, even when you don't feel like it. But that's exactly how it works. You don't need motivation every day. You need systems and habits that keep you on track when motivation fades. Because it will fade. Everyone has bad days, but if you still get your workout in, still eat your meals, still sleep right, that's where real progress happens. And here's something important. Track your training. If you're not writing down your lifts, you're guessing. And if you're guessing, you're not progressing. Keep a simple log. Weights, reps, sets. It's not just data. It's feedback. It shows you what's working, when you're improving, and when you're stuck. That information lets you adjust intelligently instead of blindly hoping for growth. Recovery plays into consistency too. You can't be consistent if you're always injured, overtrained, or run down. Smart training means balancing hard work with smart rest. It's better to do slightly less today and show up strong tomorrow than go all out and miss the next week. Remember, hypertrophy rewards the long game, not the all-out sprint. One of the most powerful mindsets you can adopt is falling in love with the process. The best lifters don't chase quick results. They chase mastery. They enjoy getting 1% better every session. They take pride in their precision, in controlling every rep, improving every set, and staying consistent when others quit. That's the mentality that builds real physiques, not just muscles, but durability, discipline, and focus. And here's something that might surprise you. The body doesn't actually care about your goals. It doesn't know you want bigger arms or a thicker back. It only responds to consistent stress over time. If you give it that, it has no choice but to adapt. But the moment you stop, it adapts to that too. The body is always listening. The question is, what are you telling it to do day after day? So if you're serious about hypertrophy, forget about quick fixes. Forget about the perfect workout split or supplement stack. Focus on being ruthlessly consistent and progressively smarter. Get a plan, stick to it, adjust when needed, and keep showing up, even on bad days, even when it's boring. Because the truth is, hypertrophy is built in those moments when no one's watching, when the work feels ordinary, and when you keep going anyway. Consistency and progression, that's the real secret of muscle building. It's not glamorous, but it's unstoppable. Train smart, recover well, and keep pushing forward. Little by little, over time, those small, steady improvements compound into something big, something visible, powerful, and earned. Because in the end, muscles don't grow from what you do occasionally. They grow from what you do relentlessly.